Hey, welcome to Plant Summary Therapy, and today we're going to be talking about the problems with Dracaenas. Dracaenas is a family of plants that are fairly easy to maintain. Before you buy your plant, make sure you have a good spot picked out for it. Dracaenas usually like bright to medium light. They only can tolerate a limited amount of direct sunlight, even though in the tropics they live outside. Water the plant only when it's dry. Do not overwater these plants. And use organic fertilizer. If you have to use the chemical fertilizers, the one that look like sand, then just use this very sparingly. Also, there's liquid houseplant fertilizer. When I fertilize my plants, I only use half the suggested dose. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, but even if you plant for everything, stuff happens. When I pass my plants and they look healthy, then I'm happy because they're happy. And you'll notice subtle changes in your plants, even if you don't know what exactly is going on. I'm busy, I'm a single parent, I have a full-time job, and I have 4 grandkids that are teenagers, so I don't have that much spare time to be spending with plants. So I have to be quick when I assess these plants. The first thing I do, I just rub my fingers up the middle of the new leaves gently, and if I feel like there is something in my hand, even if I can't see it, but I feel, then it's probably bugs. And if you can feel bugs, and if it's enough to affect the look of the plant, that means that your plant is infested. So you probably have to plan to do something right away. The fastest and easiest thing to do is to take the plant outside. It doesn't have to be that exact minute. It could be the next day, but the sooner the better. Take the plant outside and hose it down one evening. Just hose it down and just wash it with the water. The water will mechanically remove the pests from the plants, but it will also create a hostile environment or inhospitable environment for these pests to live. Just by hosing down the plant will create a wet environment. Also, with the water evaporating, it would cool the area. None of my Dracaena plants have ever suffered pests, but my Schefflera plant did. So what I did, I took it out in the lawn and I just hosed it down thoroughly. I even laid the plant down to shoot under the leaves, and then I found a spot in the garden and left it out there for a couple weeks to maybe a couple months, and every time I watered the garden, I would hose the leaves of the plant, making it an inhospitable, if not hostile, environment for these bugs to exist. So they either are killed or they moved on. If there's anything else wrong with your plant, just repot it, because you're just going to need to repot it. If you live in an area where you have hard water and there's an accumulation of salts, you're going to have to repot it. If you over-fertilize with chemical fertilizers, that's sodium, potassium, phosphorus, those are all salts. If you overwatered your plant and it got root rot, you're going to have to repot it. If you overwatered your plant and the root rot caused a fungal infection or vice versa, you're going to have to repot it. If you have a disease happening in your plant, you're going to have to repot it. Just remove all of the infected leaves, just leave whatever minimal leaves that it could possibly need to photosynthesize, and repot the plant. Don't really think about it. When you're repotting the plant and you examine the roots so you have an idea what happened and it doesn't repeat again, that's when you investigate. You look for little salt crystals, what will look like little white flakes near the roots or on the top of the plant. If it's a fungal infection, it's going to look like a fuzzy little lint around the roots, and the roots may look limp and dead. If the roots are limp and looks rotten, it's probably due to overwatering, so don't overwater. If you don't know what happened or what caused this plant to suffer, just repot it and do the best you can. Just put it in a nice area with medium to bright light. Water the plant only when it's dry, and don't fertilize it. If you live in an area with harsh water, then you may want to invest in a couple gallons of distilled or filtered water. I would use distilled water. And when I don't have time or I didn't go to the market and I don't have any distilled water there, then it won't hurt if you use a little bit of the hard water. It'll flush itself out. Look at this plant. This plant looks beautiful, but the leaves are not supposed to be drooping like this. And I knew something was wrong. I had the time, so I repotted it. I found out that water was accumulated in there, so it was beginning to get root rot, and I caught it. Look at this plant. The leaves are pretty dry, looks pale, looks faded, but it doesn't have that gloss on it. And I didn't know what was going on. This is my neighbor's plant that she asked me to fix, and I found out that it wasn't getting watered enough, so I just refreshed the soil, and the plant is doing great. This plant was designed to be in my garden. This plant wasn't getting watered regularly, and the top new leaves started to get tangled or stuck together, so I had to break the leaves apart. They had no infection, they had no parasites, and I just watered this plant thoroughly, drenched it at least once or twice a week, and within 2 weeks this plant grew and fixed itself. Dracaenas are one of the best plants that you can have. They are easy to maintain and they're easy to fit. This is my video on problems with Dracaenas. I hope it was helpful. I hope it helps. Try not to stress out over your plants. Your plants are supposed to keep you from stressing out. Thank you for watching, and aloha.